So you could do that and wait until the last minute and see if it goes. Okay?
That was just worst case scenario. There weren't enough kids.
But that's how you'd have to do it. You'd have to leave a slot open so that it would be a paid-for district slot. Okay? Are there other questions on this? The second one is full-day kindergarten. And again, this is eliminate or run the tuition-based program. If you decide to do a tuition-based program, Dr. O'Malley and I have looked at possibly going back and and seeing whether or not we should raise the fee a little bit so that the minimum would be 15, because the new state formula that's recommending class size for kindergarten is 15, and if we do 20, the problem is if you don't get to 40, you can't get 2 sections. But if you did 15 and you get to 2 sections, 30, then you could have 2 sections. So it would give more kids a chance to take full-day kindergarten, and it probably isn't going to be that much more expensive. So that would be the key is, if you want to do this, we would probably go back and look at some different number combinations and minimums, because you would like as many people to sign up to be able to take it as possible and not leave like 10 or 12 kids out there hanging, and not knowing. And by the way, I think Dr. O'Malley, was it Highwood or Highland?
Highland Park.
Just is doing the same thing for next year. They're doing a tuition based. And theirs was how much?
Approximately $3,400.
$3,400. But they're basing it on a smaller number of students. We still wouldn't be that high even if we did.
Yeah, there's an article. It's in the paper. So if you want to look it up, you can look it up.
But it's a Highland Park.
Highland, right?
It's Highland Park or Highland.
Highland. Okay, then the third one is extra and co-curricular programs. Again, the choices are eliminate those programs and or all or some of for a fee. And the reason I say all or some, because if you'll remember, what I tried to do for you last time was divide them into 2 parts. One are those sports that are unlimited, that basically you've always allowed as many students participate as possible, where you could just have a flat fee. So if a child wanted to participate though in any of those things like the camera club, chorus, battle of the books, cross country and stuff, they could. The other ones are where there's a strict limit on how many students can participate. So the benefit is accruing for those students only. So that's like basketball would be a good example, or softball, volleyball, because there's only so many students you're going to allow to be on the team. And there's a specific cost to the coach. And what I tried to do is that we came up with a number that would be across the board for everybody, instead of some of them are higher or lower, but part of that is based on the coach and so forth. So we wanted to have a flat fee. And that's per sport. So if your child would be in basketball and soccer, it would be $330. If they're just in basketball, it's $165. And the bottom is $165, which is for unlimited participation, because those are all much cheaper programs to run. So you have more kids to participate and stuff. Questions?
How does it, in your experience, so this is all based on the stipends for the teachers and sides. Have you ran across where parents or people from the community could volunteer to coach a team or have a club? I know there's some background checks and stuff like that need to happen, but have you run across that, and how difficult is it for that to accomplish that?
Let's put it this way. Rarely has it been as successful as you would think, only because there's all kinds of political issues with if their kids are on the team and all kinds of stuff going on. Normally, the only times I've seen that be really in liability and all the stuff that I've ever seen that be somewhat successful is in startup sports at the high school level. So for example, the first time that you offer lacrosse, and there's happens to be community members that have been participating, so they step up the plate to get the program going, and then once there's enough participation, the school takes it over and provides the coach.
Mhm.
But I don't generally recommend that. And if you wanted to volunteer to go with a head coach, that's a different story, but the main person should be a district employee, really. Now you can hire community members to do, for the stipends, but if nobody wants to do them, but that's about it.
I'm just looking at different ways to lower that fee, because the fee is kind of high
Right.
for this community, and so that's where that difficulty comes in. Is that there's probably 2 sports that you get 15 kids to come out to. All the other sports, it's very difficult to get that many
Okay.
kids to participate, and so like cross country, this year we opened it up to 5th graders who were participating in cross country because there wasn't enough students, and so it makes it hard when you have to pay that stipend. But if you had a parent or a board member perhaps coaching it, where then you could kind of lower that fee dramatically in a sense.
Well, I think the only other thing I can tell you is that you always have the option of subsidizing the fee.
Oh, I mean, that's the other difficult. If we could, we wouldn't have them, but that's the.
That's exactly
No,
right.
but I'm just saying that because some of these aren't huge. And the other thing you can do, it's your choice. When I say all or some, so for example, if you look up here, there's what, maybe 20 activities, maybe 25, I don't know. You could say we're only going to offer 10, and then maybe because we're only offering 10, we can subsidize it a little bit because it's, we're eliminating all the other stipends 100%. So we're, instead of offering everything down here, we're just going to offer these sports, and we'll subsidize them a little bit to make the fee better. And if you were going to do that, then I would tell you the way that you do it is you either do it by sport or you do a flat fee. It just says you pay this if you are in any sport for the year you're done with it.
Okay.
Remember, we cut all this stuff in half
Mhm.
from last
The
year
previous year.
because when we went to 2 schools, we were able to save one complete the program per se. We just didn't run it at 2 schools, so now we're down to half of what we spent before. But you could say, okay, we're going to cut it in half again. That's a choice you can make. That's not going to work as well as with kindergarten because it's such a big number, but this is comparison now. That's your choice. We can go back and look at what the total cost of offering some of these programs are. And obviously the other thing I've seen school districts do, which you may or may not want to do, is they've had the park district come in. All the fees are paid to them, and they charge whatever they need to. So they run the coaching, you just provide the facility.
How could they do the play in the conference though if it's a park district? Isn't there I don't know, how does that
We can
work?
play in the conference, the LNAC conference. We can play in it. The bylaws just clearly say that all the students who are in our school go to our school. So we
Okay.
we would not be able to allow a student from Union Ridge to come in and play, or from a Chicago school to participate in our conference. So whomever registers, whoever pays the fee, must be a student in our school. That's what the criteria is that's outlined in the LAC. And I actually asked the conference about that, and they said that's exactly what they would expect.
Okay.
So that is a possibility, and maybe, you could, it's another governmental agency, but maybe they could do it at less cost. You could work out something with them if you wanted to maintain the program. So if you ever had a chance to run it back, it's there. That's the issue with all these, if it's very hard to eliminate something and bring it back, especially if it's a big program like band or something. If you want to maintain it, then you need to figure out, I think, how you do it from the very beginning. Band is really 3 things. It's practice band, it's the sectionals, and it's the individual lessons. Individual lessons will have to be done by outside the day. And then the question is, how do you do the others? And that's why we want to talk to the band director and anybody else that would be interested.
I have a question.
Yes.
This kind of encompasses for all 3 decisions. Does the free and reduced program through the state for the tuitions affect any of this, any programs, if they're inside the school day or if they are a sanctioned sport, does that coincide with free and reduced? And if so, how does that affect the overall cost for the participants? How does that get covered?
I can let Dr. O'Malley speak to this, but from my experience, it doesn't have any effect because these are all optional programs. For example, there's no requirement to offer band. So you're offering it outside the school day for a fee. It's not required for graduation, for middle school, or from this district. Full day kindergarten is an option. The state only requires half day. There are lots of districts that offer anywhere from a half day for a fee to, I'm going to call it childcare, I guess is what you could say, that have modified their program just so they're there all day because it benefits parents, okay? And in some cases, if you look at the fee for kindergarten for a half day, for 3 or 4 hours a day, that's a lot cheaper than you can get childcare at a lot of places. So if you do the math, it's actually a good deal, and that's why some districts do it. And as far as sports and stuff, that's always been, I mean, they've been offering, doing fees for years, and that's your policy. I mean, you can say if you want to that you'll waive those, but it is not required. Okay? A lot of high schools require everybody to pay the fee. Some high schools that have these fees or other places, if they have a PTA, they pick up some of them for the kids, so that the kids that are struggling still get to play, and somebody kind of donates the fees for them. There's lots of ways you can do that. That's a board decision.
Yeah, but your policies, there's a common misconception that kids on free and reduced are automatically waived. The way your policies are written is they're decoupled. So you could be free and reduced, but you still have to prove through a process whether or not you are eligible to be waived. Whereas others, basically, you're proof for free and reduced, and you're automatically waived. So right now, the way policies are written, they're decoupled. If through the policy process that you decide to put one on top of the other, so it's automatic, that's a decision that the board would make. And so to answer your question, for now, that's a true statement. But you never know, in the future, someone may make a decision and say, you know what, we need to make sure that the both of them are waived. I hope that helps. But as we're going through this policy process and you're literally redoing all of your policies, you know, you're going to have that policy and you can read it, but it can go in one of two directions. That's a common misconception that I hear from RHS versus us, the high school versus us. People say, well, I was waived automatically at the high school, but you have to read their policies. Their policies are written slightly different from ours. So our policies can be different throughout the state from school to school based on what we believe.
I would highly recommend, no matter if you do any fees, you think about how you want to implement them from a policy perspective.
Exactly.
Especially even to the extent that some things people don't think about, that, and that is, for example, what if you're like me and you had 4 kids, and they were all in elementary at the same time, what do you do? Do you give a family a discount? You know, because, and so you don't have every, you know, because it can get really expensive. So those are policy decisions that a board would make, but those are things that if you decide to go this route, you should think about, and you should make a decision of whether you want to do that.
Yeah, like if you can go back one slide, I think it's the one slide for
This one?
yes. So just to reiterate, so scenario 1 and 2, you guys were given scenario 1 and scenario 2. Craig is basically saying is we can meet the expectations of scenario 1, which is about $883,000. Okay? Band is no longer in the schedule. That's the direction the board gave the administration, to not put it in the schedule. What you see listed below here, more specifically decision 2, the board would decide whether or not they're going to give the opportunity for people to do, or for the administration to move forward with providing full day kindergarten. But by the way, you don't have to make this decision tonight. We're just letting you know. Everything below full day kindergarten is procedurally based. And so when you're seeing this, these are procedures. So a common question that comes up in my world, or Sarah when she's collecting fees, is I have more than one child, do I get a discount?